Big changes are coming for Amazon advertising in 2025, and you need to do everything that you can to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that you know as much as possible about what you should be doing this year. We are going in and showing you exactly everything that you should look at doing and talking about the big aspects of Amazon advertising in 2025. What actually should you be doing and what shouldn't you be doing? And are there certain areas that maybe are under tapped, underutilized that you can really use for big gains this year? So, we're going to be talking about a few different things. Today, we're going to be talking about Amazon automation advertising. So, basically, AI advertising, Amazon DSP, as well as video campaigns and backlinking as well. So, these are kind of the major things that I want to touch on and just kind of talk about what are they and are they actually going to be useful in 2025. First and foremost, let's get into our actual primary one, which is the Amazon AI advertising. Automation tools and AI advertising on Amazon are nothing new in 2025, but they are becoming more and more prevalent as people are starting to utilize them more and more. The thing is, I think this is both a good and a bad thing. The good part of this is that people are starting to get more accustomed to it, and it's more obvious when someone is utilizing them because they all do pretty much the same thing and they're all kind of competing against each other. The bad thing here is that Amazon AI advertising still is not going to be what you should be utilizing if your true goal is extreme growth or you have multiple goals of both profitability, sales growth, while also hitting ACoS targets. Amazon AI advertising is fantastic when it comes to things such as keeping you within the budget that you want or keeping your bids within a certain amount or spending a certain amount a day, spending, a certain amount per keyword, things like that, and keeping extremely fine to the line on those areas. But it doesn't really fully grasp the idea of what it means to have, let's say, a overall overarching goal of growth while staying profitable. This is where AI advertising falls short and still is going to continue falling short in 2025 unless some new technology comes out that is going to magically make it better. As far as AI advertising goes, if you are someone who is planning on utilizing it, here is what I would typically suggest to you. When depend on what software you use, they're all slightly different. It doesn't really matter if you're using, Perpetua, it doesn't really matter if you're using, Solar Labs, anything like that. If you are using an AI automation software, what you really should be focused on is making sure you have a few things. One, you know very well what your ACoS has to be. Two, you know very well what your tacos goal is. And three, you know your ROAS. These are the three metrics that are going to really, really help you understand if your AI advertising is doing what it needs to be doing. Now, there's a fourth secret metric, and that would be your click through rate, which I'm up in the air. That really depends on what your relevancy is. The issue with these AI advertising softwares is that they essentially will throw a bucket of paint at a wall, see how much of it sticks, and keep all the rest of the paint that land on the floor too. So you end up wasting a lot of money. So yes, you're going up to your bid, and this is almost intentional because a lot of these softwares take a percentage of your ad spend at the end of the day, along with that flat fee. So typically speaking, it's going to say, hey, if we just spend up to whatever your budget is, they're going to be incentivized to do that. So, am I someone who typically says that AI advertising is always bad? No. Is it bad more often than it's good so far? In my honest opinion, yes. I haven't seen a lot of great things come from it. There are a few different case studies I've seen where people have had fantastic results with it. And the bigger of a brand you are, the better it's going to be because it's going to be a lot easier to self manage that than it is for something where, let's say, you're someone just starting out. So, realistically, if you have a budget of less than 50, $100,000 and you're trying AI advertising, I think the results are going to be subpar in my opinion comparatively to just getting someone to self manage it for you. That really is to say real-time bidding strategies and someone manually looking at campaigns is never going to be able to actually fully replace what it is trying to do with AI advertising. I do believe though that manual campaign optimization is the best approach because you still get that human element that you are looking for when you are trying to do everything. Enough of that. Let's talk a little bit about video advertising on Amazon. Now, video advertising on Amazon is something that has been around for years at this point. It's nothing new again in 2025, but I believe it is having a much larger impact nowadays than it has in any year's recent history. The reason for that is that people are becoming more and more accustomed to things like mobile, where they're just scrolling on their phones all day long, hoping to get some kind of result of some product just fed to them that they want. But more often than not, video advertising, I think, is just so undertapped because people aren't using it how they should. So, how should you use video advertising? A couple different ways. First and foremost, using video advertising to push your brand identity is huge. I am all about brand identity in 2025 and making sure people are setting themselves up for success to actually build a brand on Amazon. And video advertising does exactly that. Now, even if you are someone who has a single product, you can still make a single product brand, and video advertising is the best way to go about that. The way that you essentially can go about doing this is create video advertising in a few different ways. First and foremost, create it in a way that actually showcases, yes, your brand, but also your product. Read through any reviews, negative or positive, you have ever gotten, and create a video going through your exact product, what the use case of the product is, and how to actually make sure that it is properly utilized for people. One of the best showcases I see for video ads is actually in the board game section. I love seeing people put video ads on board games because it can truly show and teach people how to play the game and show that the game can be fun. So, absolutely, if you are thinking about creating video advertising in 2025, go full bore ahead with it. I am a firm believer in it. Now, another area of utilization would actually be not exactly video advertising, but more specifically, user generated content videos. Now, we all know that apps like TikTok are blowing up the proportion, and absolutely is no different this year, even though there is going to be potentially a TikTok ban this year. I guess we'll see. Video advertising and user generated content go hand in hand, and that is one of the biggest things that I'm going to be pushing this year, is telling people, hey, this is a great way to advertise your product organically to people's audiences, well, organically, so to speak, to people's audiences, and get your video seen or your product seen, sold, and get your brand name known. So absolutely, if you've thought of doing some user generated content videos, go full bore with those as well. I'm a firm believer that that is going to be one of the second or third best ways to really grow your brand into something more this year. Another area and aspect of video advertising that I am personally a huge fan of is doing some of the wilder ones. If you have a really, really big ad budget, let's say $10,000 plus, and you are looking somewhere to spend that money, think about doing a video ad through something like Amazon DSP, or do, just sponsored video for, Twitch, Amazon Fire, things like that. These are going to be great areas for you to really grow with things like sponsored display and DSP, because video advertisement is one of the simple, easiest ways to get into those mediums. Now, you're not going to typically see a direct conversion link from doing things like that DSP with video advertisement or Amazon display with video advertisement. The reason is for that, if someone's watching something on their, let's say they're watching on Twitch or they're watching on their Fire TV, if that video ad pops up, you're not going to see a direct converting factor. The thing that you need to be watching out for instead is you should be watching out for your overall organic growth and your overall branded keywords to jump up over the weeks after you start launching that. Because people will typically see some form of video advertisement, and then a couple days later will go by and then they'll think about it again, or they'll see it again. Then they will search it on their phone. Now, this can't always be directly correlated one to one. And so that's why sometimes the metrics are off from a conversion rate perspective, as well as a click through rate. So instead, what I am always going to tell people is look at your branded keywords. Is this showing your brand is organically growing? Is your tacos going down? Is this something that you can very clearly say, hey, yeah, this is pretty clear that I am getting, better in this certain area. If it is, then absolutely continue doing them. I believe 100% that DSP, sponsor display, and video ads are some of the best pairings when you are looking at kind of growing your overall brand identity. Now that we've talked about those, let's talk about one of the stickier situations on Amazon. And that is that Amazon is always getting more and more restrictive with their brand requirements and requirements on Amazon, everything that you have to do. So, this is one of the areas where we're going to be talking about how to stay compliant ahead of the curve compared to most other people with what is suspected to come out this year, as well as any changes that have recently come out around advertising. Some of the key things to know about this is in 2024, there was new regulation passed around advertising in general, not just Amazon, and how user data can be interpreted. One of the cool things about this is that Amazon is actually looking at potentially adding some new features that go in line with this that they didn't have beforehand simply because they didn't know if that data's privacy was allowed. They didn't, Amazon's not the biggest fan of adding something until typically it's either just greenlit 100% by some US regulatory agency or instance of perchance someone goes through and says, "Hey, this should be okay because so and so government agency is saying so." So therefore Amazon is going to be like 2 to 3 years behind the curve. So, there is no difference when it comes to data privacy from consumers on Amazon as well and how we advertise. One of the good things about this is that people this year are suspecting in 2025 that Amazon is actually going to allow us to start targeting from a keyword level things such as consumer demographic data. So we can already do this with things like brand tailored promotions and how we can actually set up brand tailored promotions. But in 2025, I am heavily suspecting that Amazon is going to bring that consumer analytic data over into the keyword realm as well. This would set us up to be a little bit closer to something like a Google or a Meta in how we typically do the advertising on Amazon, but is absolutely something that I think is necessary and something to take note of. That being said, keep these things in mind. If you're someone who is doing email marketing, for instance, stay ahead of the curve and just keep your knowledge up. We'll obviously inform you on our channel here, but make sure you're always taking a note of what different changes there are in how you can market certain people. This is something to always take a note of whenever you're a brand who is trying to establish themselves. So, if you, for instance, have a QR code in your packaging, you get emails, and then you try and do email marketing, make sure that you always have an unsubscribe button, things like that. These are the basic principles that I'm always going to suggest to anyone who's doing advertising, whether it's on Amazon or off Amazon, and something that you should always take note of. Amazon PPC in 2025 is realistically not really all that different from any other year. The big things this year, again, are things that people are not really doing as much of and that you should be looking at doing more of. Again, things like DSP, things like video advertising, trying to make sure you're staying ahead of the curve when it comes to specific policies that are coming out. All of these are things that are really going to bring and elevate you up and I think help you with a brand identity in 2025. All that being said, if you enjoyed this video and you thought that this was really helpful for understanding a little bit more in the Amazon space this year, then please drop a like, comment, subscribe to our channel. We're going to be posting more and more all about Q1 PPC on Amazon and all sorts of other topics. Thanks.